In the late 1990s, police received a letter that chilled them to the core. It was not from a victim begging for help, nor from a kidnapper demanding ransom. It was from a man who claimed responsibility for one of the most shocking killing sprees ever recorded. In his words, he had murdered 100 children. He described in detail how he ended their lives and even explained how he disposed of their bodies. At first, investigators thought it must be a hoax. No one could possibly commit such a crime and then casually confess. But the more they read, the more their doubts dissolved. This was no prank. The writer offered proof, photographs of the victims, belongings, and step-by-step accounts of what he had done. He even taunted authorities, boasting that the remains had been destroyed in acid, leaving little to uncover. As the news broke, fear spread like wildfire. Streets once filled with the sounds of children playing grew silent. Parents clutched their sons tightly, terrified that they could be next. It wasn't just the number of victims that horrified people. It was the coldness of the confession, the sheer confidence of someone who seemed to believe he was untouchable. Behind this letter was a man who seemed ordinary to those who knew him. Educated, intelligent, polite on the surface, but inside he was consumed by bitterness and revenge. Years earlier, an arrest for sexual offenses had disgraced him, and he blamed that humiliation for the death of his mother. In his twisted logic, if his mother had cried because of his downfall, then 100 other mothers should cry as well. And that became his mission, to shatter 100 families in the cruelest way possible. His victims were the most vulnerable of society. Runaways, orphans, boys barely old enough to understand the dangers of the world. He lured them with promises of food, shelter, and kindness. Once he gained their trust, he trapped them. They were abused, strangled, and then the bodies were placed in acid drums, reduced to nothing but sludge. For him, it was systematic, almost mechanical. He kept detailed notes, photographs, and clothing as sick trophies of his crimes. Finally, in late 1999, the man behind the confessions stepped forward. He walked into a newspaper office and surrendered himself. His name was Javed Iqbal. His crimes had been committed in Lahore, Pakistan, a city that would forever remember his name with fear and disgust. When questioned, Javed showed no real remorse. He spoke with calm detachment, recounting his actions as if he were reading from a diary. He admitted to killing 100 boys, proudly presenting evidence he had kept. The investigation confirmed his claims. This was no exaggeration. It was reality. In February 2000, his trial began. The courtroom was packed with grieving families, reporters, and ordinary citizens who wanted justice. The evidence was overwhelming. Javed Iqbal and a few accomplices were found guilty. The judge handed down one of the most unusual sentences in legal history, that Javed be executed in the same manner he had killed his victims, strangled with the same chain, cut into 100 pieces, and dissolved in acid, while the parents of his victims watched. The sentence was as shocking as the crimes. Around the world, people debated whether such a punishment was justice or barbarism. For the families of the victims, many felt it still could never balance the scales, but that punishment would never be carried out. On October 8, 2001, before the execution could take place, Javed Iqbal was found dead in his prison cell. Officials declared it a suicide by hanging. His accomplice was also discovered dead, but suspicions lingered. Some believed he had been silenced. that powerful forces wanted him gone. Others thought it was the final act of a man who refused to let others decide his fate. The case of Javed Iqbal remains one of the darkest in modern history. A man who set out to murder 100 children and, by his own admission, succeeded. His crime scarred a nation and left families forever broken. Books, documentaries, and even films have been made about him, though one recent film was banned for being too disturbing. What makes his story so chilling is not just the staggering number of victims. It is the calculated, deliberate cruelty behind each act. The way he planned it, carried it out, and then confessed with pride. He was not a faceless monster lurking in shadows. He was an ordinary man, walking among ordinary people, hiding unthinkable evil within him. Decades later, the name Javed Iqbal still carries a heavy weight. For the families of his victims, the grief never faded. 100 young lives gone forever. Each boy had a name, a smile, a future stolen in the most brutal way. And while their voices were silenced, their story remains, serving as a chilling reminder of how evil can exist in the most unexpected of places.